Hey, what's up guys, Kira here and welcome to another video. So I'm slowly coming back from my summer vacation. Hopefully you guys didn't miss me too much. Today we're gonna have a sort of a talkative video because I came across Lasser's video where she talked about the problems with the animal survival genre. And for those of you who don't know who Lasser is, she's basically a YouTube content creator like myself that mainly makes dinosaur videos, but she also do gameplay and review from time to time on the animal survival genre. So as someone who mainly makes reviews, updates on the animal survival genre, why not give my 2 cents and also opinion on the matter. Now this is not me going after Lasser's. I think she did a very good video and I will link it down in the description so you guys can go and check out for yourself. But there are a few point keys that she nailed it and a few other things that I do want to clarify that I don't think a lot of people talked about. So I want to start with Animalia Survival, which is one of the well-known games that people know me for. My channel got labeled as Animalia Survival, even though I like to call my channel a variety channel because I love to cover and play other types of games besides Animalia. You probably see me play The Isle, Path of Titans, other dragon games like Draconia, Dragon Twin, and my channel is mainly focused in everything that involves creatures and animals. That being dinosaurs, dragons, modern animals, extinct animals, prehistoric, etc. Unfortunately, I got labeled by the Animalia Survival community, and it is a game that I want to talk about. Unfortunately, the game is not really in a very good stage, and it was never in a good stage, and I do have to agree with Lasser on this point. Animalia Survival is not really a game that you, the viewer or even subscriber, should buy if you're thinking of buying it. I always was clear and I always told you guys the truth that buying Animalia is not worth it at this time. Animalia did a few patches here and there that kind of auto-destroyed themselves, but even though they have some pretty cool models to show, Animalia will never be a game that will show you mechanics that will outshine the modern upcoming games. Animalia, I think it's a game that is mainly focused in making skins, DLCs, maps and stuff like that, but when it comes to making mechanics, something unique or maybe something that can draw players in, Animalia, unfortunately, it is not the game for that. You will probably see, like always, Animalia going on this roller coaster of disappearing and then coming back and then disappearing again. Sadly, it is hard to say. Animalia will always have a place in my heart because it was the very first ever animal survival game that I've played, but I don't see Animalia being one of the greatest out there. It had the potential, but they just flopped really hard. And as someone who makes content, you, the viewer who really enjoy the Animalia content here in the channel, you don't know how hard it is to make nothing out of something. And those of you who play Animalia, you'll probably know this because Animalia, there's not really much you can show and do. We have the same map for over like 2 years. Nothing really changed combat wise or even mechanically wise. Players play the same animals and that is it. And sometimes I do feel it's my fault to kind of make it look like the game's good, but as a content creator, I have to kind of work with what I have, and Animalia unfortunately doesn't really give me a lot of tools, so I have to kind of improvise and try to make it look good so that people can kind of view the content and kind of support the channel. But unfortunately, the overall Animalia situation is really bad. The player count has been declining since the 2022. I've played on 2021 and the OG Animalia Survival players will probably agree with me. That was the golden age of Animalia when it was the best of the best, where it was really fun. There were a lot of players. The player count was basically 400. Now it barely managed to scrap the 100, peak on this game. Sadly, Animalia kind of auto-destroyed itself. You will probably see updates here and there, but it won't really be something that will draw players back. It will probably either be, here's a new map, here's some new skins, here's some new DLC, here's like a simple basic mechanic that we did, and that's basically it. So unfortunately, Animalia, it's in a very rough stage, and I don't really see them coming back from that. When there's something good or there's something bad, good comes out of it. And Animalia has inspired a lot of these indie developers to make their own animal survival games. So you have the Great Circle that's been in development for God knows how many years, but is still being developed until this day by TJ, which is a solo developer. We have Way of Animals, which is also a very underrated game that is being developed under the radar, that is trying to break the animal survival genre. You have the two well anticipated games, which is Primal Earth and Untamed Kingdom. And a lot of these games, what they have in common is an optimization. All of these games are really struggling when it comes to optimizing their own game. They sell visually, but when it comes to gameplay wise, they always flop because how unoptimized their game is. As someone who's also creating a game, it is not really easy to put out updates regularly. I do think a lot of people are forgetting that it's a small company, it's a small group of people, and they're kind of giving this pressure and giving this accusations and critics like they are a AAA industry, which they are not. A lot of them don't really have the tools that the AAA industry have. Sadly, AAA industries, I don't think they will ever make a animal survival game because I don't think it's something that they will view as profitable. It rests upon these dreams and these small indie developers to try and make, animal survival games really good. And the reason why I do think a lot of the times they flop is if we grab the dinosaur genre. First of all, I do think a lot of people really enjoy dinosaurs. And second of all, you can play as a herbivore and still defend yourself and kill most of the carnivores that are in those games. But when we jump into these types of more recent animal games, a lot of these animals, they are not really equipped, or they are not really meant to fight lions and leopards. Sure, they can kind of defend themselves, but mostly when you introduce these types of herbivores, gazelles or zebras, or even a few of these antelopes, they are animals that are basically known to run away. And because we are humans and we are behind the screen and we are playing as probably a gazelle, we want that dopamine of fighting, of killing, of being the underdog. Unfortunately, that doesn't really work well with the animal survival genre. But the big issue is that sometimes when they are depicted in these animal survival games, they are slightly OP and really difficult to hunt, and then they become OP, and then people decide not to fight them, and it's easier to fight other lions and eat other lions or even other small carnivore predators. But if you grab the Isle and Path of Titans, you can grab a very huge roster of herbivores and basically fight any type of carnivore that comes your way. You have the weapons, you have the power, and you have the ability to kind of learn and defend yourself. But if you grab the animal survival genre, well, that is not really the case. I do think that a lot of people sometimes give this war cry of, this game is not realistic because this should not really happen. And they forget that this is a game. And a lot of the times what people tend to do is incorporate these animals, which in my eyes are animals that people won't really play, because the animal survival genre is mainly focused on the carnivores. It's mainly focused on the big cats and the medium cats, because that's where the fun is and that's where the activity is. But if you implement these herbivores that people get killed really easily, people won't play. People will play the ones that are able to defend themselves, or the animals that are able to kill those big cats. And that's why a lot of the times AI is something that is needed in the animal survival genre, and a lot of these games don't really work on it because I don't really know why. And that's why you will probably see a lot of these games will have beautiful maps, beautiful graphics, but the map itself feels empty. The animals that you come across are either carnivores or one of the big, herbivores. And that will generate a unbalanced health in the ecosystem, because we cannot forget that we have other animals besides lions, tigers, etc. And if you introduce a small cat like a leopard, you will need to introduce a way that a leopard player can hunt, because if we grab the example of Animalia, if you try to play as a leopard, there is no animal that you can kind of hunt unless you're lucky enough to maybe find somebody who just spawned in to kill. Important when it comes to these animal survival genre to have a balance. Primal Earth is very beautiful, and I do think it has a lot of potential, and it's a game that a lot of people are looking forward to, but it's a game that when it comes to optimization, it's just really, really bad. And I do think a lot of people are clouded because the game looks beautiful, and just because of how beautiful it looks, they forget that optimization is one of the most important things out there, because a lot of people who play these types of games don't really have a high tier PC to play. Even me, who have a medium tier PC, I struggle to play Primal Earth even on high or even on medium. And of course, I could play every single game in low and have the best frames ever, but the game would look basically ugly, and we really don't want that. If they're selling this beautiful game, I do think that people want to play what they're showing, and a lot of the times that could be misleading. Untamed Kingdom, for example, is a game that a lot of people probably known for the old name called The Hunted, and it's a game that's been constantly updating, constantly giving feedback, constantly working on optimization, and it's a game that it went from a doubt game to a very, very good game. Yes, there's still a lot of things that still need to be worked and addressed and fixed, but they have optimized, they are constantly putting out updates, they are constantly listening to the community, doing polls, and I do have to say, they are coming up to the tier list, and maybe there might even be Primal Earth if, they do things right. But yet, the moral of the story is, do not forget that a lot of these types of games are being developed by small studios. They're not AAA games. They don't have the resources or the capacity to make something really, really good that people always demand. A lot of the times, you, as a developer, you might lose track of things because you get engulfed in this excitement, hope bubble that sometimes you don't really know what you're doing until it's too late. So I have been there with Dragon's Veil, and now that I'm making a secondary game, I'm taking it slow, and I think it's the same thing to anyone who's starting a game. You get so much hyped and you get so much energy, a lot of this dopamine, that you start buying things left and right, and you kind of forget on the future of the game. And then once you start to see how things are, then you see, well, I should have done this in the beginning. We should have tried to approach this a different way. And then you kind of lose more money than you will probably gain. So it's a risk that not a lot of people are willing to take, but it is something that you as the viewer, as the player, need to know that this is not a AAA company with a lot of employees. These are small groups with a lot of passion, with short budget, and they need your support and your feedback to evolve. If people really want a good animal survival game, then they need to keep an eye out and they need to be very careful on what they say and what they spread online, because a lot of the information that I come across is really misleading and false. So hopefully you guys enjoy this little yapping video. I will leave every single game that I've mentioned in this video in the description below. The Great Circle, Way of Animals, Untamed Kingdom, Primal Earth, Animalia, and maybe later on my own game that I'm developing that hopefully in October I can kind of talk more about it. But that is my 2 cents. Don't throw money at the first thing you see just because it looks beautiful. So get it here. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in a next video. Take care. Give me your opinions down in the description below, and subscribe if you guys are not yet subscribed. A like for the YouTube algorithm, and I'll catch you guys in a next video. Take care and peace.